Hello. So another question we get asked a lot from our clients is how do you get a support show or a support tour? Which is a totally fair enough question. So what is a support tour or a support show? You probably know, but just to clarify, it's an opportunity for an artist with normally a smaller audience or fan base to open a live performance, a live show from a more established artist than themselves. So a show is a single moment in that case. So it's one performance at one venue for one night, and a tour is a string of shows across a territory. We're in the UK, so it might be a UK tour. Obviously, you can tour Europe, you can tour single countries within Europe and the world, and also the USA, of course, although that's a big tour if you're doing that whole country. So why are they useful? So very obviously, they're useful because it gives a chance for a new artist to put themselves in front of a new audience, a larger audience in the real world. So it's not just as an online presentation of themselves, as a virtual presentation. It's a lot more than that. So that's important. It builds credibility. So if you've effectively been chosen to support a more established artist in a show or a tour, it's kind of a statement that's being made that there must be something worthwhile, terrible term, but worthwhile for bringing you onto that show, onto that tour. You've got to have great music, and or you've got to be brilliant live, and or you've got a growing, burgeoning audience, and combinations of those three and more. And also it's connections, not just, most importantly, not just with potential new fans, potential new audience, but with industry as well. Because quite often, if a band or an artist is doing a tour, a significant size tour, they're likely to have a promoter, a booking agent, and a manager. So there's an opportunity for you to meet with those people, probably meet some of their colleagues, probably meet any press people who might be coming along, any influencers, anyone that might be engaging with the main act, the act whose show or tour it is. You do have opportunity to connect with them and hopefully build a relationship of your own. So they're really, really useful. I'm going to manage expectation here, though. They are really challenging to get on. Don't let that put you off. Don't let that put you off. But I think the challenge is increased because many emerging artists just don't know how to go about securing or approaching, even, let alone securing, approaching the people who might decide who is that support act for the show or the tour. So let's start with the strategy of this. If you want to support artists on their shows and tours, you need to be strategic. Who do you want to support? And that's an important question because it gives you a chance to, and we mentioned this in other videos, like really start to build an understanding and growing understanding of your peers. Who are your community of artists? Now, the way to look at this is which artists or bands are operating in the ilk of your music style and identity and intention. So it's not just about do you sound like or similar. You sound like you because you're you, but do you sound similar to certain artists? Well, that's a good place to start. It's about thinking, are there artists who you can reasonably deduce that would have a fan base that would be likely to want to engage with your music? That's the way to look at it. And literally build out those targets. Start a spreadsheet, build out the targets. It's really important. So you start to understand your scene. And although it's good to have an idea of like the artists that are really kind of established and they're doing some big cool stuff, chunk it down from there. Is an emerging artist or an artist who's maybe released 4 or 5 singles, starting to kind of finalise that last EP, maybe moving in towards the second EP. Like, look for artists just a bit ahead of you. Maybe they've got an album's worth of material out. Maybe they're into their second album. There's a few million streams. There's good, like, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even just touching 100,000 followers on their socials collectively, not necessarily just one platform. They're the artists that would be a useful target for you because they're still accessible. Like, they are more likely to still be reading DMs and maybe answering them on socials. They might have management that are still open for bringing other artists along for their journey, so to speak, like by giving them support opportunities. So really think about who your targets are stylistically and why they're your targets in terms of their profile, where they are there on their journey. That's really, really important. And a very good way of kind of sowing a seed and laying the groundwork is just to be generous on your socials in particular. Be generous with the artists that you've identified as targets. Now, don't just do this cynically, because if you put something, they've released a tune, if you put it in your stories on Instagram, you think and tag them, you think they might see it, and then whatever. It's not, don't be that cynical. It's got to be authentic. You have to love that single they've released or something they've done and share it with a bit of commentary of why you like it or what it's moved, how it's moved, what it's done to you. Like, be generous with their content and their music, because that is going to build awareness with them. And it's also going to provide a potential means of initial connection. Just that first opening for you to then approach and start to build out that relationship. It's really important. And don't dive straight in. I mean, it has worked in the past, but don't dive straight in with, hi, I've noticed you've got a tour, or I noticed you've got a show, I'd love to support you. Like, that's a little bit too direct. It's a little bit too forceful. It's not really showing that artist or that band that you've got any real interest in them. That's all. That type of approach early on is just all about what you want and who you are. It's not being generous. It's not about investigating them and trying to meaningfully connect with them. So make sure it's authentic and for good reasons. And then when you feel like there's a few replies here, then it might be time to just to ask. Like, I've noticed you've got a show coming up. Loved a couple of tunes you've released. You just wonder if you've got support sorted. No worries at all. If not, hope you don't mind me asking. Keep it light. Keep it friendly. Don't be too direct with your request. And quite often, as I think I mentioned this in another video, if you give someone a chance of an easy no, they're actually more likely to say yes. So bear that in mind. Now, we mentioned artists. Connecting with artists directly is an absolute. It's most of the time, it's the artist, the headline artist or band themselves that choose who they want supporting them. Now, they might have options presented to them, and those options often come from if they've got a booking agent, if they work with a promoter who's promoting the whole tour or who has promoted previous headline shows. Investigate that. So that's the promoter and manager. So those 3 facets of the industry, booking agent, promoter, manager, they're useful to connect with in order to help build up the offer of you presenting yourself as a possibility of a support artist act or that band on their show or tour. So that's really, really useful. Those are your targets. And again, they stem from your previous work of finding out who's in your scene, your contemporaries or who are just a bit ahead of you. And then you can find out who manages them, who books them, who promotes them. Again, you're building targets, this time kind of music industry targets. And then reach out to them on email. With the artists, as I said, the DM's fine. Like, you can reach an artist like directly via their social media profiles. That's totally cool. it becomes more like peers and contemporaries talking. But when you connect with the industry, use email. Keep the body of the email, I've done a whole video on this, keep the body of the email short, sweet, friendly, and attach your one pager or your one sheet. Again, there's a video on that. Go and check that out. It's really important. In short, it's a document that breaks down easily and clearly any successes or any kind of cool stuff that you've done. It's an immediate document of intrigue with a bit more information should the reader want to investigate more because they like you, your music, and your initial email. So make sure you've got your one pager and your one sheet. That's really useful. Now, a slight tweak to the one sheet, or maybe more of a strategic consideration, is if you are, in this case, approaching for a live opportunity, a support show, support tour, what do those three people want to see? The artist is more interested in you and your music, but generally, manager, booking agent, promoter, they want to know, are you worth tickets? Not to sound brutal, but it's the truth. Are you able to bring people to the shows on the tour? Are you doing some interesting stuff? Have you any good radio spots, good playlists on Spotify and Apple Music? Have you got any syncs? Are you doing stuff, something interesting that brings intrigue to the whole offer of the tour for that artist? It could be things like, do you have a specific audience to promote to? You might be from a specific town where you've done a lot of live work and you sell out 100, 200, 300 capacity headline shows. It might be quite localized, but that's cool. Particularly if it's an area on their tour, use that as a leverage. Even if you don't get the whole support tour, there might be one leg of that support tour where you might be able to leverage being the opener. So again, think about what you can bring to the offer, what might be attractive, as I said in this case, to the industry elements, the industry facets, the industry players, operators in this realm. That's really important. And also, consider, are you part of groups or communities that would resonate with that particular artist's music because they resonate with your music? So just always try and think strategically of why an artist and or their team might put you forward as an option for a support show and support tour. Really delve into that and make the most of those elements. And I'd say finally, let's be positive, when you get a support show or support tour, it is not just about you turning up and playing brilliantly. By the way, you've got to be brilliant. Guess what? There's another video on that sort of thing, gigs and shows. Check that one out. That's really important for this context. But making the most of it is things like, after you performed, say where you're going to be in that venue. Allow people to come and find you and connect with you. That's really important. That allows you to bring them into your world a bit more. Have a mailing list. Encourage people on the day, on the night, on the evening to sign up to your mailing list. Again, there's another video about that, but that's got a really, really high engagement dynamic to it, particularly when it's direct communication to a growing fan base, community of people. And just generally connect. These are amazing opportunities to be in a face-to-face environment with an audience that should be relevant to you because you've done your research on your peers. And if you connect with them, bring them into your world, be the cool, friendly, lovely person that you are, and it's more likely that they will then investigate you further, connect with you further, engage with you further outside of just that live moment. And that is going to be a big part of how you turn that person into a fan, a community, part of your community for you and your art. I hope you found it useful. Please put any questions below in the comments and we'll get back to you. Like, subscribe, We're here to support you on your artistic journey. We know it's challenging out there, but it's so rewarding. Just use us. Use us.